All right, I wanted to make a shorter video. I just posted a video on Piaget's theory of cognitive development, and it was a longer video because we went through not only the key terms, but we went through kind of some of the key tenets of the theory as well as the 4 stages of cognitive development. Here, I want to keep it really short and sweet. I just want to focus on these key terms. So I have 5 of them here: schema, adaptation, assimilation, accommodation, and equilibrium. So it's really important to understand that these terms are associated with his theory. I think understanding these will help you understand the 4 stages. Okay, so the first term that we're dealing with is schema. And like I said in the previous video, a schema it's a pocket of knowledge. It's a unit of knowledge, or as your psych textbook will tell you, it's a mental structure. And again, Piaget really did view the mind as this kind of structure that has different pockets of knowledge. So it has these different schemata in it. And that's how it will organize knowledge, make sense of it, and thus apply it whenever we encounter something in the world. And so for me, and for a lot of people, the best way to make sense of this is to think of a schema as an index card, just like this one right here. So for every object or subject or group of people or whatever it is that you have knowledge of, you have a schema, an index card. And on that card is knowledge about that particular thing. And so that gets stored in your brain, in your mind. And so whenever you encounter that again, you're like, oh my God, I've seen that before. I have knowledge on that. Let me pull that up and, oh yeah, this is what I should do in this situation, or this is how I could handle that, or oh, this is what I know about that. Okay, and so as we go through our cognitive development, we acquire a lot of schemata. And so we acquire a lot more of them, and the ones we have get even more detailed and complex. And that's really just the tenet of how cognitive development is understood per Piaget. Okay, so that's a schema. Adaptation, the process of adaptation is really the way that Piaget understood our intellectual growth. So he really did think that our intellectual growth is truly a process of adjustment, aka the way that we're adapting. And adaptation happens one of 2 ways. It's either through assimilation or accommodation. We'll start with assimilation first because that's the easiest to understand. Assimilation is when we are presented with something in our external world that we've really pretty much already encountered before. This new experience is not very different from previous experiences, so we likely have a schema that we can apply to this new situation we're dealing with. Okay? Nothing's too crazy here. Accommodation is when we encounter a new experience that is very different from what we have encountered before. And so we're going to have to change our schema in a very big way, or perhaps just create a whole new schema. This happens when the existing schema or knowledge that we have just doesn't work. It's not going to apply here. And so we got to make a change to deal with this new object or situation. A great example of that is when we have a schema for a dog. And when we're little, that schema might be very simple, right? We haven't really gone through a lot of cognitive development. So our schema of a dog might be, oh, a dog is something with 4 legs, it has a lot of fur, 2 eyes, and it's something I can pet. Okay, that's very simple, right? So we go through this process of adaptation of this schema when we encounter a cat. We might run up to that cat and go, oh, look, Dad, there's a dog. And our dad is going to be like, no, that's not a dog, that's a cat. And we get a little confused, right? Because we're like, well, based on the schema I have, there's a lot of fur, there's 4 legs, there's eyes, and I can go pet it. And then our dad explains to us, no, that's a cat, and walks us through that. And so we acquire new knowledge. And with that new knowledge, we have to change our schema or create a whole new one to make sense of the fact that, okay, this actually isn't a dog, this is a cat, just like my dad just said. So this is really important because once we accommodate, we kind of get back to equilibrium. And this is a really underrated part of this theory, I think, but I find it to be super important just because one of the things that I really respect about Piaget's theory of cognitive development is his emphasis on the fact that human thought seeks order. And we get uncomfortable whenever we are confronted with contradictions or inconsistencies in knowledge structures. And so for us, right, so as that little kid, when that little kid confronted that cat and thought it was a dog, and dad was like, no, that's a cat, we kind of came out of equilibrium, right? We're a little uncomfortable because there's a contradiction there. The schema I have isn't making sense of my external world. And so I have to make a change. And then once I make that change, once I accommodate, okay, I feel comfortable now because now I have knowledge that is allowing me to make sense of my environment. So this is just really important because before we accommodate, we're in disequilibrium. And it's amazing how quick our minds will really work to get us back to equilibrium. We really don't like to be out of order with things. So I would just be very mindful of that piece of things as well. So that's about it. These are the key terms that I would really focus on whenever you're thinking about Piaget's theory of cognitive development, and then of course go back through and make sure you understand the 4 stages. Because if you're still in school, absolutely, you're going to get tested on that. So you can go over to the other video that I posted towards the end, probably the last 15 minutes. I really go through those stages and I kind of cut out all the crap. I didn't want to go through all the tedious stuff. I just put in there what you would be tested on in your psych class or even on a test like the MCAT, because I took the MCAT 5 or 6 years ago, and some of this stuff is on there in the social studies portion of it. So I hope this was helpful, and I'll see y'all next video.